Hi, this is Deborah at Dinglefoot Scrapbooking, and this week I have a technique to show you called Emboss Resist. And as you can see, I have a ton of distress inks out, and you don't need to use this many, or even these colors, or even the stamps that I'm using. I just have these out to show you a technique and in the process make an interesting card. So, I have a tree stamp. This is from Inkadinkadoo, so I have a nice big tree stamp. You could use a swirl. You can use about any image you want. And then I have a background stamp. It's already on my block, and you can see it's just little blobs. And this is actually a Tim Holtz one from the Urban Tapestry set. So I have that background stamp. And then the important thing that you will need for this is you need the clear embossing ink and clear embossing powder, and then for over the top you can use whatever colors you want for your project that you're making. And then I have a couple other things to put my card together. One thing you do need is a heat tool to melt the embossing powder, and you need a baby wipe, or maybe a slightly damp cloth would work well too. So I'm going to start off by taking my walnut stain ink. So I wanted kind of a darker background. And I'm just going to ink up this background stamp here. And I'm just going to tap this all over my card, just here and there, to get a nice background. Okay, so you can make that as light or as dark as you want. And then I'm going to take a break here, and I really need this to be completely dry before I can do the next step, because I'm going to be stamping my tree and embossing it, and if I get embossing powder on this background while it's still wet, that's also going to be embossed, and I do not want that to happen. So I'm going to take a break here, make sure this is completely dry before I move on to the next step. Okay, for my next step, I'm going to take my clear embossing ink, and I'm going to ink up this tree stamp. This is the one that I really want to show up on my project, so I'm going to wet that down really nice, and I'm going to stamp that right on my project. Press that down really good, make sure that that image is on my paper. And this is the thing with the clear embossing powder, then you can't really, or the clear embossing ink and the embossing powder, you can't really see what has happened until we get our other colors of ink on it. So I'm just going to really sprinkle this powder all over. I want to make sure I've gotten all that image. Then we're going to take the extra, shake it back into our jar. I'm going to take this card and just tap it really good on my countertop to make sure I get off all that extra embossing powder. And I'm going to take a break again and heat up this embossing powder with my heat tool. Make sure it's all melted. This is the fun part. This is where our image is going to really start to show up. So I have my foam tool. You could pat your ink pads over your paper, but I just don't feel like I have enough control when I do it that way, and then I don't do it evenly enough and I get the edges of the ink pad marks all over it. So I'm just going to ink up my foam. I'm just going to start rubbing some of these different colors onto my card. So now I have spiced marmalade. That first one was scattered straw. And just here and there rub these around. Now I have fired brick. I'm going to try to get around the edges too. And here's peeled paint. So you can use any combinations of ink that you want to use. I just figured since I had a tree and it's getting near fall that I'd just stick with fall colors. So now that I have my ink on my card, I'm going to take this baby wipe and I'm going to rub right over that embossed image. So since we have that nice clear powder, embossing powder on it that we melted, we should be able to take off some of this, maybe not all of the distress ink, but some of it should come off. And as we rub, you can see that this image is coming through very nicely, and it creates such a nice background on your card, or if you could use this for a scrapbook page or about any project. So now, if we want to go ahead and finish this up, we could add a few little things to make this into a card. I have a couple little leaves, a little ribbon that I tied, and a little birthday wishes. So you can use whatever you have. I'm going to take a little bit of my walnut stain ink and just go right around this tag that I made. Then I'm just going to glue some of these pieces in place. I'll just use some hot glue. Put my little tag down here. And then I'm just going to add a few little leaves in my bow. And this is going to be done. And there we go. Get my little strings off there from my hot glue. And I am finished with this card. Thanks so much for watching.